Rainsfield ran onto the deck. And when he got there, he heard the scream of an animal he didn't quite recognize. And he looked into the distance, and he saw the biggest island he had ever seen in his whole life. So naturally, he wanted to get closer. He crept towards the edge and leaned over the rail. But all of a sudden, Rainsfield has fallen in. Caribbean seawater flushes over his head. And he swims to shore. And he pulls himself up onto the rocks. And he catches his breath. And when he gets up, he sees the biggest castle he has ever seen in his whole life. There were 2 cliffs, dive down on both sides. So Rainsfield went up to the door. And Rainsfield was greeted by the biggest man he had ever met in his whole life, with a rifle pointed directly at his chest. Ever since the beginning of time, humans have hunted for food, for shelter, for survival, and for each other. Cain hunted Abel, Brutus hunted Caesar, and every single day, the disadvantaged working class of America is hunted by a greedy upper class. According to the Center for American Progress, underprivileged communities are policed at over a 30% rate more than wealthy communities. This leads towards an animalistic type of survival. So we as Americans must come together and take down this elite class. So we no longer have to play The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Canal. Because we are not prey, nor predators. We are just human. Mr. Rainsfield, I recognize you from those journals in America. Why don't you come in and join me for dinner this evening? The general was singularly the most handsome man Rainsfield had ever met in his whole life. So he walked in the house. And he sat down for dinner. Here, Rainsfield, have a cocktail, why don't you? It was singularly the best cocktail Rainsford had ever had in his whole life. But as Rainsford sat across the table from the general, he noticed that the general was looking at him like he was almost studying him. You know, Rainsfield, I, as an expert hunter, have killed about everything there ever was. And I almost got bored of the hunt. So, I had to invent a new animal. But General, a new animal? I have never heard of such a thing. What animal could you have invented to hunt on this island? Only the most dangerous of game gets hunted on this island, son. You see, I needed an animal that was quick-witted, smart, and cunning. And I found one. But sir, there is no animal that possesses all 3 of those traits. I mean, that is unheard of. No, sir, you can't mean. No, sir, that is murder. Do you hear me? That is murder. Oh, there you go, using that M word again. I'll tell you what. You can't judge the hunt until you've been on it. Sir, I will not participate in such a thing, okay? I will not be a murderer. You have a misunderstanding, Mr. Rainsfield. See, here's my proposal for you. After this, I will release you onto the island. and you have 72 hours to hide from me. Of course, if you succeed, since I know you, I'll let you go. Under the condition that nobody hears about this place. You understand me? Well, I should go to my afternoon nap. But I suggest you get going. Because once I get moving, I don't stop. Au revoir, Mr. Rainsfield. Au revoir. Rainsfield ran through the forest, cutting bushes and grass, running straight forward, and then he stopped. He realized the general was smarter than anyone else he had ever met in his life, as he was the most experienced hunter he had ever met. So Rainsfield looked and looked. And then he came across it. A tree. Dead, laying over another one. And Rainsfield knew what he had to do. Rainsfield worked all day and all night. And then he heard the general and his big footsteps coming directly for him. And he hid under a log. And he looked. And the general kept coming and coming and coming. And then it happened. The general tripped over a wire, and the tree came falling down, and oh! Oh! I don't know where you are, Rainsfield, but I should congratulate you. No one has ever tricked me like that before. I'm going home to nurse my wound. But by daylight, I'll be back. Au revoir, Rainsfield. Au revoir. If the general could survive that, then he could survive everything. So Rainsfield took off. Running until he couldn't run anymore. And then he got to the edge of the island, and there it was. Just how he had gotten on. The ocean. Rainsfield pondered it for a moment. He jumped. Rainsfield! Rainsfield, where are you? The general noticed that Rainsfield's trail disappeared as he went off the island. Oh well, that's a bit boring, I suppose. So he looked in his pouch, and there he pulled out a cigarette that was perfumed, and he smoked it. And then he went home for dinner. Well, it was a long day's work, and though it might have been boring, I should get to bed. So Rainsfield walked up the stairs and opened the door into his room. He turned on the light, and then, Rainsfield, is that you? Hello, General Zaroff. The hunt might be over, but there is still a beast at bay. Au revoir, General Zaroff. Au revoir. Rainsfield had never slept better in his whole